So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Breakout session number 2, progressing towards CCAM enabling and hosting infrastructures. It's a very happy picture here to see so many familiar faces, so many faces in this room. So glad to all welcome here. My name is Thorsten Geisler from BAST, the Federal Highway Research Institute of Germany, and well, I'm supposed to be your moderator of this breakout session, which will have 3 parts. Yeah, the first part, as you know, we have within the CCAM partnership a cluster which is called integrating CCAM into the transport system, and we have meanwhile a bunch of projects which accounts for this cluster, and in this first part we called it the project marketplace of these projects which have started in the second half of 22. Yeah. Then after this first part, we will look a bit more downstream in this overall life cycle to get ready for deployment. And in this second part, we will showcase some projects, not from Horizon Europe, but from the transnational research context. Yeah? We will have then 2 projects of this, and again, also in this second block, which we called the Deployment Avenue, also 2 platforms which are very important for the public side to move into deployment. Yeah? And then in the third part, again, I go a bit here. Yeah? We will have then a panel of stakeholder representatives reflecting on the presentations, on the content, and bringing their point of view to this panel. And of course, it is also planned as an interactive session. So yeah, please come forward also with your points. I suggest that we take questions for understanding after each of the blocks of the presentations, yeah. So after the first 3, and then after presentations 4 to 7, and then that we get into the full discussion later on. Yeah. Okay. With that, I would like to open the first block, and I would like to welcome the first speaker, which is Thierry Gauget from FERL. And Thierry is going to present augmented CCAM. And I think there is something, you will take the PowerPoint, yeah? Yeah. All right. Okay, happy to have you here. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure indeed to present this first project. That project was actually one of the first in its kind, funded by the European Commission, also with the support of the CCAM platform. The title is called Augmenting and Evaluating the Physical and Digital Infrastructure for CCAM Deployment. So this project was actually didn't come, let's say, out of the blue. It came from a long lasting reflection which happened in the frame of the infrastructure world, if I may say it this way, and especially on one hand within the FERL umbrella, FERL being the association of research centers, universities, and national transport authorities, namely in this forever open road and later forever open road, rail, river, and runways. So where automation and supporting the deployment of automation was also part of the discussion, and also of the reflection undertaken within the air track, and especially the roadmap connected cooperative and automated mobility roadmap with one of the main elements within the vision of 100% connectivity. So the goal of that project is really to understand, to harmonize, and to evaluate in an augmented manner the adapted and the novel support concepts of the physical, digital, and communication infrastructure to advance its readiness for large-scale deployment of CCAM solutions for all. So that's really how to, let's say, prepare the infrastructure for the deployment of the connected and automated driving. So very briefly, we have 4 main blocks in our projects. On the one hand, we'll try to update the classification, the PDI classification, and to develop a support scheme for CCAM. So there has been already some work undertaken, the ISAT classification, other work done within other organizations. But the idea is really to update and upgrade this classification so that it can be really useful for the deployment of CCAM. That's really one main pillar. The second pillar is to build a service operational framework and architecture that can integrate the different existing and emerging technologies, while integrating the different aspects of the users, the virtual platforms, and so on, so that in a way we share what we can see. And that's a very important second block that we are going to undertake within the project. The project started 6 months ago, so it's a very new project. Then the third aspect will certainly to work on priority adaptation for new or optimized PDI support solutions for CCAM services. In that pillar, we are going to work on 11 PDI solutions, working for different environment. They can be for road zones, entrance or exit ramp, road pavement marking, road workstations, and so on. So there will be very various type of PDI solutions, assuming also a mixed fleet penetration. So this will be basically a kind of real-world applications. So this 11 PDI solution will then be tested into an augmented interactive implementation. And this augmented, in other words, is a combination of physical environment and virtual world, so that we can, let's say, simulate the very environment that we need for testing the implementation and validate the solution that we have developed. So this one are going to be very intense. We have the intention to develop technologies up to TRL 6.7. There will be indeed 7 physical tests in 3 European cities, so throughout Europe, to make sure that our solution that we are going to develop are, let's say, at the TRL we expect. There will be 7 validation rounds, so there will be really intense testing of the solutions we are developing. And there will be really from different speed, from 20 kilometers to 100 kilometers in highways, through 9 CAV demonstrators. So in other words, this should be quite extensive testing of the validation. So hopefully with these 4 blocks, we should have some concrete output to provide at the end of our project. We aim within this project to, let's say, have at least 5 new CCAM services deployed within the test context that we have set up. We also aim that at least one of the new business model emerging in each project is also adopted. We certainly will work actively to make the maximum endorsement of the new classification scheme that I mentioned earlier, and we expect that at least 5 road authorities, constructors or owners, as well as 10 cities will adopt this new classification. So we will certainly work a lot with them to make sure that this is happening. We also hope that at least 2 new corridors are created within the project. And we certainly wish that the solution that we are going to develop, I would say co-developed, are actually helping for a no-regret decision in terms of investment later on. So with this, this should have an impact, and we believe that this should be helping to for a 50% increase of probability for PDI investment, and certainly some saving as well for investors that we estimate about 10%. So this is, in a nutshell, what I'd like to say for this project. I was asked to be very fast. I just use a few seconds to promote an important conference that happens every 2 years, and where certainly the debate about CCAM will be. So TRA next year in Dublin, for people who are interested in submitting papers, deadline is extended until the 29th of May, and there is also an attached competition for senior and junior, which also is very interesting. So I just invite you to apply for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thierry. So, and thank you also for being to the point in terms of time. So the next speaker is then Vasilis Zourlas from ICCS in Greece. And maybe just process-wise, that one can identify the speakers. Make it this way, otherwise it looks like I have different faces, yeah? All right. Vasilis, the floor is yours. Yeah, and yeah, let's, sorry. Let's close this and then it's down there. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, hello, good afternoon from my side. I'm going to present you our project. It's called Podium, and it stands for PDI, Connectivity and Cooperation Enablers, Building Trust and Sustainability for CCAM, whereas PDI is the physical and digital infrastructure one. A few quick words about the project. The project was, it's a new project. It was started this October. It was funded under the Horizon Cluster 5 D60103B, I think is a sister project to Augmented CCAM, which was in 03.A. It is composed of 26 partners coming from 8 member states, as you can see in the bump, and it has an overall budget of 12 million. As you can see here, and it is just to make a few points, is that, as you can see, there are some nice hubs of partners in Spain, Italy, and Germany, where we have actually the 3 main trial sites where all the demonstrations are going to take place and all the corresponding solutions. And as you can see, at each site, we have a nice set of partners that covers pretty much the whole ecosystem, from mobile network operators to support this connectivity, mobile connectivity, to short range providers, to vehicle operators and manufacturers, to tier 1 suppliers, and pretty much the whole ecosystem that can support the whole project. In 2 of the sites, in Italy and in Spain, the trial sites are dual. It covers also urban areas and also highways areas with some very critical infrastructure, as it is the Brennero passage between Italy and Austria, and the other one is at the borders between Spain and France in the Mediterranean corridor, where we are going to have some experiments in and some management of the corridor at the specific tunnel in that specific area. Now, the idea of the project is to enable connected and cooperative automated mobility in real traffic conditions, and in order to do that, they are taking advantage pretty much the whole spectrum of digital and infrastructure and solutions and physical infrastructure, starting from the advanced multi-access edge computing, which is going to be available in all sites and in different layers across the architecture that I'm going to show you later on. Different data fusion techniques in order to provide real-time digital twins that can be built either at the cloud level or at the level of the road, depending on the importance of the application. let's say, a very sensitive application the computation has to be done as close as possible to the event. So there, let's say, in the tunnel, you need to have this processing at the very locality, at the very place where an incident takes place. New CITS messages, as the VAM message is going to be implemented and trying to be standardized through the standardization mechanism throughout the project. This is some new kind of messages that are used mainly in order to support VRUs, which is one of the most important attributes of our projects, and the integration of VRUs overall to the project. The integration of VRUs comes in a dual form here. One is, of course, to provide and increase the safety of VRUs, but the second most important part that is part of the project is also to involve the VRUs and the handheld devices in the whole process. Each VRU, each biker, each user of the streets or of the vehicles has a mobile phone which can be used as a set of sensors that can be included in the digital twin and the traffic management solutions. It can be included in the trajectory computation, let's say, of the VRUs, and can be combined with the trajectories of autonomous vehicles or any other users of the roads. So this can be included in the whole process. And as, let's say, a final extensions can also be used to inform the VRUs through alerts or through messages in order to avoid a potential conflict with an autonomous vehicle. This is pretty much the high-level architecture of Podium. You can see that depending on which hat you are wearing, if you are coming from the mobile network operator point of view, or if you are coming from a traffic management center or from a road operator, these boundaries are not very stable, let's say, there. Depends on how you can see it. But pretty much there are three different levels in the architecture of Podium. It is the road level, which has all the attributes of the road, the vehicles, the RSUs, the VRUs included. The edge server, which is the mobile edge computing, depending of also here which hat are you wearing. If you're coming from a mobile network operator point of view, there is no MEC layer. The MEC is anywhere within the same network. But in our case, we assume that there are MEC instances at the very end of the road, at the level of the mobile operator, but also back in the cloud through the internet connectivity. And of course, it is the network level of view, where different multi-connectivity and multi-path solutions are going to be used with different technologies, from 5G to 5G millimeter wave cellular network up to ITS G5. So pretty much all the potential solutions are integrated in the architecture of Podium. Here is a quick view of the three different living labs. What it is common there is that MEC is available everywhere. LTE and 5G connectivity is also available everywhere. ITS G5 and is also going to be used as an alternative communication method. And of course, connected vehicles provided from the two OEMs that participate in the project, and for Bosch as a Tier 1 and also as a vehicle operator in the case of the German site. As I told you, there are three different sites. Two of them are dual, including also highway and urban scenarios. And all of those, let's say, new technologies and new solutions will be tested in 5 different use cases. I think that there's no reason to get into details into there, but one of the most important things, besides the inclusion of the VRUs, it's also the concept of information integrity and trust of the information that comes through the sensors and through the different enablers. And it's not from the point of view, as we know it, from cybersecurity point of view, but from potential malfunctions of a sensor that is working properly, but the data that is sending is not probably from a malfunction issue and cannot be trusted. So it's something that has also been a key concept of the project here, using the well-known trusted platform module solution that it's already standardized in this area. The impact, a few words here, I mean, of course, is to make a little bit more integrated the different solutions that comes in the physical and digital infrastructure, and there are also side effect impacts, also in emissions. But one key impact that we have already targeted, especially in the case of the Spanish living lab, in the cross-border situation, is, if possible, to provide a means of transportation in rural areas where the population is decreasing and can be a potential solution in that case. this is pretty much from my side. The project is on month 7. It's in very good shape. You can visit our website and our social media, and you can also contact me or any other partner directly. So thank you very much.
Okay, so with that, I'd like to invite Maria for the next presentation, which is on the Into CCAM project. Yeah?
The CCAM, yes.
So, and let's go into the presentation. The first one, yes. Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you to you. It is a very good opportunity, very important opportunity for me to be here. And I will present the Into CCAM, the enhancing integration and interoperability of CCAM ecosystem. I am Maria Piafanti. I'm from the Polytechnic of Bari in Italy. Into CCAM is a new project. It started in November 2022 and is composed of a consortium that is of 21 partners from about 10 countries in Europe. The objective of Into CCAM is to develop, implement, and demonstrate innovative services for connected automated vehicles in order to accelerate the implementation of innovation of CCAM technologies and to provide benefit to the citizen to implement a full integration of CCAM services. And the impact for the society is based on safety, environmental inclusiveness. Safety in referring to the number of road accidents, environmental in order to reduce transport emission, inclusiveness to ensure inclusive mobility and good access for all people. The approach is based on the implementation and the integration of enhanced physical, digital, and operational infrastructure. And the proposed action would like to develop new mobility concept for passenger and goods. Physical infrastructure will be updated, for instance, considering dynamic dedicated lane for CCAM, intelligent traffic lights, intelligent road signs. Concerning the digital infrastructure, we would like to start from the existing traffic management system that are present in the cities and to develop a new solution, new traffic management system, design and implementation services for interoperability, using the data for improving the traffic connection and traffic connectivities, also by using traffic lights, cameras, and finally data and services that are based on by using Copernicus and Galileo applications. The implementation also of HD maps that may improve the environmental application of CCAM. Moreover, we will develop new services and applications for smart devices And in order to balance the traffic, to optimize freight transportation and logistics, also in last mile delivery, to apply services for vulnerable road users. And innovative technologies will be applied, such as artificial intelligence, digital twin, vehicle-to-vehicle communication, vehicle-to-infrastructure communication, and platooning. About the operational infrastructure, we improve the governance. We would like to improve appropriate governance models to integrate this kind of services in urban planning, and to ensure collaboration between stakeholders, different kind of stakeholders that can be users, industrial people, university people, providing business models for automated shared vehicles, and improving the interoperability and the integration with public transport. And the action will be developed and applied by integrating CCAM vehicles in the complete mobility system. This is the methodology of the project that is based off the guideline of ESTA European project. That is the three main phases: preparation, usage phase, and analysis phase. And the usage phase is based on study and an implementation of different living labs. We divided in 4 leader living labs that implement the new service and into CCAR platforms in order to extend the current services and to collect data, to involve people, and to provide information and governance model. The 4 living lab, leader living lab are Tampere, Trikala, Turin, and Vigo. And more than these 4 leader living labs, we consider also 2 follower living labs that will follow the result obtained by the leader living labs and apply the proposed services by implementing a simulation campaign. This is in order to increase the project outcome, increase the dissemination, and amplify the results obtained by the leader living lab. And thank you for your attention. This is the website and the LinkedIn and the Twitter site. Thank you.
So after you have now heard about this bunch of newly started projects last year, do you have any questions, immediate questions for clarification to the presenters? Yes, please.
Trying this, okay. I have one question. So all these 3 projects, thanks for these nice presentations. I have one question, and that is, to me it felt like you are doing kind of similar, but with different approaches. Similar activities, but with different approaches. How do these 3 projects collaborate on the output, let's say on the data side, on the functions that you are looking into? What is the collaboration?
Yes, so it's a very good question, and I don't know who should start answering, but so clearly the call was in such a way that it's not so, let's say, it's not a surprise that we have actually similar, in a way, projects, if I may say it this way. So about the approach, what we would like to do and what we plan to do is to have regular meetings between the three projects, so maybe once every 6-7 months, something like this, so that we can share the development. And then we will also fix what we can share between us, having in mind that we have some partners within each of the consortia that are, let's say, private. So they also need to keep this confidential. But this is what we will do. So, and now we are just reaching about 6-7 months for each of us. So this is going to start very soon. Yes.
And I would like to add an information that this year at in Lisbon at the conference ITS, I organized a special session where I invited some of the coordinator of this project, and also I invite other people to collaborate, to have a connection, and in this conference in Lisbon will be an occasion to perform this connection.
Yes. From my side, just want to add, besides this bilateral, let's say, trilateral activities between the three projects, one key important thing that we have in mind is that also this FAME project, that I guess you are aware because we are participating here through also FAME, is an important, let's say, tool in order to provide also collaboration between the projects themselves, funded also from the CCAM partnership, but also between to share a little bit the knowledge to other projects, mainly national projects that are not that large and have these all resources. So in FAME, you can find there a knowledge base with all the information coming from previous and currently CCAM projects, with a common evaluation framework that is to be deployed with data and legislation concepts and things there. So, I mean, this is one key thing, that all the important information from all the projects that is going to be presented here are going to be reflected there as well.
And there might be two, say, levels of exchange. The one on FAME that you mentioned, particularly on the common evaluation methodology, but also on the test data sharing framework. Yeah. And then, of course, also to bring the projects once again together on the level of the overall cluster in the CCAM partnership. Yeah, I mean, these are now little babies. They will be infants and growing up. They will have their own minds and views, but well, okay, what can be done on, say, some coordination activities that will be done and will be also supported. And also to mention, you have heard about 3 of the babies. The 4th one is named Conductor, could not be presented today here, but also very worth being counted in this project marketplace of this session. Yeah. Okay, thank you. With that, moving on more towards deployment. We are going down the deployment avenue, and well, so it's fair enough to take a look at projects that are already finished or at the finish line. Yeah. And I think also to relate to one remark which was made before, but in the synergies session, you see we take up this spirit here, but there are also say projects which stem from pooled funding from member states, and we would like to share the results of two of these projects. And the first one is the TM4CAT project, and I'd like to invite Risto Kulmala for taking the stage here. So once again, let's prepare here. All right.
Thanks. Okay. Yes, traffic management for connected and automated driving, EUCAD, a project funded by CEDAR, the organization of the European National Road Authorities. And it was all responding, we were responding to the research call on 2020 and there to the task of traffic management. It was a 1.5-year project and it practically ended now this March. We still wait for some final comments to the deliverables, but in practice it's ended, and this shows the consortium. It was coordinated by MapTM from the Netherlands, and see some of the key actors in the picture here. So what did we accomplish? We worked a lot on this concept of distributed ODD attribute value awareness, because this is something to be able, the automated driving system to be able to be always know the values of the ODD attributes in order to be able to drive safely in the automated mode. The attributes themselves that we looked at, they were based on the British standard taxonomy, also utilizing some results from the studies from Europe, Japan, and USA. As you saw, we had here experts also from Japan and USA in the project. And looking about attributes that the values could come from the vehicle sensors themselves, or then from some extra sources like the infrastructure sensors or some service providers. And then this basically shows the picture, which is crucial. So in the upper left corner you see the different sources of the information where we get the ODD attribute values, and then based on what is available and the technology and behavioral competencies of the automated driving system, then the automated driving system can makes the judgment of whether it's able to drive automatically within this ODD domain, and then when it compares to the rules of the road on a particular road section, then it also knows whether it's that particular section can be driven automatically by the ADS. And the role of the traffic management, which was what we were looking at, comes then from the bottom, which provides some of the rules of the road, obviously, whereas it also can have a direct impact on some of the ODD attributes themselves. And then the cycle goes back on. So that's how the DOVA, the Distributed ODD Attribute Value Awareness Framework, works. And some other key results, we obviously look at then the attributes and what are the most important attributes. We didn't have any ready answers to that, so we had to find out for ourselves. Again, try to classify the ODD attributes to the physical, digital, and operational infrastructure, and also the ambient environmental conditions, which play a certain important role for the ODD. And then concluded in a number of most important ODD attributes, and they are listed in those tables here, which you are likely not able to see, but you can read them in the deliverables. And how we approached them, we looked at the different scenarios like adverse road weather conditions, roadworks, traffic jam and traffic jam dissolving, and tunnels, and looked at what were the most important in these specific scenarios for the point of view of the ADS developer or the future AV fleet operator or the traffic manager, and of course also the roadworks and winter maintenance operator, which are quite crucial in some of those use cases like the roadworks and adverse road weather conditions, and obviously also the they are also in some cases not only the users of this information at the same time as the ADS systems, but also the providers of that information. And then we compared it with the high drive results. We also had a common workshop with them, so we found out that these are quite compatible with their results. Then we did some work also on the quality, so what sort of quality is required from the information and the DOVA framework itself. And here are some examples here of the time-related indicators for the quality, and also some of the quality requirement proposals. And we found out that the most challenging ones for the road operators for the information that they provide today are the location accuracy, which in many cases now we know that something is happening between two junctions, and that is not enough, obviously, for an automated driving system. Geographical coverage of the information, the report coverage, meaning that the coverage of the attributes, and then the timeliness of the data. But obviously, we also found out that the connected automated vehicles are also a solution to this problem. So they are the source that can improve also the quality of the information from the road operator side. And then we looked in practice, and all these 4 scenarios that we looked at, that how what is the desired behavior of the DOA framework itself, what are the expected benefits of it, and the actors, their relations, the different scenarios, and the functional constraints and dependencies. And then concluded there still is a large gap of information between both parties. With both parties, I mean the road operator side, and then the vehicle side, so the ADS developers, the OEMs. So road operators need to know how the ADS will react under certain conditions, and how will they, for instance, carry out the minimal risk maneuvers for the vehicle industry. So what are really the expectations of the road operators concerning the ADS behavior? So basically, we need the mutual exchange of information in an open dialogue. And obviously, CCAM partnership is one of the platforms where this can take place and in this project. So the results are available at the website, which is listed here. In some cases, they are still the drafts. The final ones, I think that next week there's a meeting of the CEDAR where we discuss the acceptance of the deliverables. So when they are accepted, they will be all put on the website, and of course on the CEDAR website as well. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Risto. So to complement this perspective with say a project, if we talk about European scale, more of a regional perspective, we'd like to introduce a project of the German-speaking countries which collaborate in the DACH region, so Germany, Austria, Switzerland. And I'd like to invite Nick Wittmann for taking the floor on Lex to Vehicle. So.
Okay, so welcome to everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and to speak here and to tell you about the project called Lex to Vehicle. Lex to Vehicle was carried out by 4 partners, which is Albrecht Consult from Germany. It's IAV, which is a Tier 1 supplier from Germany. The Faculty of Law from the Sigmund Freud University in Vienna, and from Prisma Solutions, which I represent. I think the title of the project is, let's say, self-explaining, bringing traffic law to the end user, so Lex to Vehicle. What's the background behind Lex to Vehicle, the big picture? So on the left-hand side, There we have public authorities, we have lawmakers, and on the right-hand side we have road users. And it's the responsibility of public authorities to define the behavioral framework of road users. This works since more than 60 years, more or less perfect. We have, I'll give you an example, you take regulations. These regulations are published, for example, via traffic signs, are perceived by us, by the road users. We do some interpretation, and then we know about our behavioral framework, and then we take our decision within these frameworks. In the last years or last decades, there has been some additional support by sensors in the cars and other systems that help us to interpret this the current situation. But when we talk about automated driving or automated driving function, then we are it's clear that it needs an additional channel, an additional path of information flow. So this means digital information flow. To publish the information as a structured data set, and also to receive it in the vehicle, to interpret it. And that's the basis for human road users and, of course, also for automated vehicles, so that they have a framework where they can take their specific decisions. Within the next years, or maybe the next decades, we will have mixed traffic, and so it's very important that the behavioral framework for human road users is the same, or let's say nearly the same, like the framework for automated vehicles. Therefore, it is necessary on the left-hand side also to have, let's say, some identical behavior, so such like the publication should be also legally binding. The digital publication should also be legally binding as the physical publication is. So the guiding principle behind Lex to Vehicle is that at any point of the road network, at all times and in any situation, any road user and any automated driving system should be aware of what they are allowed to do and what they are not allowed to do. The goal is a common, at least Europe-wide, behavioral framework that is as clear as possible. I think here it is not necessary to explain the difference between a physical channel and a digital channel, but as you see on this slide, in the red regions, there are a lot of media discontinuities and room for interpretation, which makes it very hard to get the clear information, clear decisions. So the green one, the information flow is the information flow with the greatest possible reliability, and which is very important in this case, in order to have the basis for the highest legal certainty. So, what is the approach, the solution approach of Lex to Vehicle? It is the, let's say, reformulation of highway codes and regulations with regard to digitization. The second one is the legally binding provision in machine interpretable format by using a domain-specific language. And the third one is the certified interpretation of this domain-specific language by automated driving systems and also information systems for human road users. This needs a cooperation. It needs cooperation between the public sector on the left-hand side and the industry sector on the right-hand side. We are talking about the standardization of this domain-specific language, about harmonization of maneuvers. The maneuver is the let's say, the common denominator for all this. We're talking about harmonizations of ODDs, harmonization of test procedures and type approval, as well as solving specific legal issues. There are legal issues that are not easy. Sometimes, for example, it's necessary to break the law in order to survive. So this will be very, very interesting in future discussions. We developed about 20 measures in order to reach the goal. And I don't want to tell you about each single measure, but this slide shows that the measures are on a multinational or cross OEM level, on a national legislative level. There are measures regarding regulations, data transmissions, and on the other hand, vehicle development and type approvals. And all these measures together, they will lead to the solution being with a Lex to Vehicle. We also developed a time schedule. This slide is about 1 year old, so it's not a baby, it's an infant. So you have to add 1 year in the first line, but I think it's not necessary to go into detail. But what are the next steps? The next steps are to specify the outcomes of Lex to Vehicle more detailed, and then we will need a big project, let's say multinational project. Could be an innovation action or something like that. Just to get an imagination, let's say 4 to 6 member states, 2 to 3 OEMs that are really bringing it down to earth, what will be developed in Lex to Vehicle. And then there is a phase of 5 years to establish the organizational framework, harmonization, standardization. And maybe you will ask yourself, why 5 years? There are two answers. The first answer is it will last 5 years at least. And on the other hand, you have to regard also the development path of an OEM. So there is the first thing is the first step is the research and development. Then there's the pre-development phase, and then there's the serious development phase. So we have also to consider this in our timetable. So at the end, there is the go live in about 10 years, but it's not a big bang. So there are many targets, partial targets in between until that. So what are the benefits? The main benefits is that Lex to Vehicle integrates national legislation into a transnational overall concept, and thus enables legal and development certainty for the transnationally operating OEM. Lex to Vehicle offers also the unique opportunity of a co-evolution of law and technology, which ensures traffic safety in the long term, even in the face of increasing automation. And last but not least, Lex to Vehicle strengthens the cooperation in the European automotive industry with the European countries, and thus enhances the attractiveness and competitiveness of Europe as a center of commerce and industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Going down Deployment Avenue, we are coming to projects, platforms that operate under the Connecting Europe facility, and with that, C-Roads was already mentioned quite a few times, as NAPCO 2, in the morning. So, well, Martin, I would like to invite you to show us what has made the difference with C-Roads. Okay. Da ist der Maus, ich suche die.
Thank you very much, Torsten. Good afternoon. I'm happy that cooperative ITS is as well part of the CAD conference, because cooperation and CAD, per definition, is connectivity, connected automated driving. And we heard already this morning and in all this session, cooperation is needed. And this is really why I personally always prefer the CCAM, where we have the 2 C's, and the first one stands for cooperation. And this was also what Risto in his presentation a little bit was looking at and focusing at, where I said there is a gap between OEMs and road network operators in achieving a common understanding what's happening, how are the systems functioning, what is meant, how is simple things, how is a roadwork zone organized, what are the possibilities of all these partners. And that's one of the elements C-Roads is dealing with. So CCAM, the first C, stands for cooperative. And the good thing is the C, this cooperative C, is also the part of CITS. It's not connected ITS, it's cooperative ITS. That's per definition. And the cooperative ITS infrastructure, that's reality in Europe. And this is what I just want to state here. Use it also in the CCAM world. We have something out there on both sides, on the OEM side, on the infrastructure side. And Europe is here the leading region worldwide. We're the first region where CITS is really deployed, where connected vehicles are reality. And this cooperation network that was built up, and that's the crucial element, the cooperation between authorities, that was a task of C-Roads. Also, it's not always easy to bring all authorities together if these are city authorities, state authorities, authorities also on a European scale, everybody brought together. Cooperation between all the road operators, again, on all the different levels, and most importantly, cooperation also between the infrastructure operators on the one hand and the car industry. And here, usually, there should be a second logo there with the Car-to-Car Communication Consortium, because this cooperation is really established. And when I say cooperation, cooperation is more than just signing a nice cooperation letter. I can tell you that this cooperation between the OEMs and the infrastructure operators, that means every second week, a half-a-day meeting of experts from the car industry with experts from the road network operators. That means resources. That means real work. Cooperation is not just signing a nice agreement. Cooperation is learning the other side, understanding possibilities, reasons for doing the one element like this or that, and also understanding limitations. And connectivity, of course, connectivity, that's the enabler for CITS. But cooperation, that's the key element. Because cooperation means also the willingness to cooperate. I want to cooperate, and I trust the other side. You can believe me, we are not deploying because we didn't know what to do with the money. We trusted the other side, that there will be deployments on the other side. So this common trust, this common willingness of all stakeholders, that's really paving the floor for CITS in the first step and for CCAM hopefully in the second step. So I just would like to invite you, build on what we have today. What do we have today? And it was already mentioned, I think it was Geert van der Linden, who said, yeah, we have 18 European countries that are committed to harmonized CITS deployments in a harmonized way. I will come to that. What does that mean? We have, in addition, associated countries which are partly outside of Europe, which said, okay, if I start deployments, I would like to follow your approach. Or countries that are saying, okay, yes, we are following your approach. We have more than 50 European cities committed to the C-Roads specifications to these deployments. And nowadays, we have more than 20,000 kilometers of roads equipped with CITS infrastructure. And in total, we are serving more than 100,000 kilometers of roads with CITS services. The C-Roads platform, it was funded in 2016. It was December 2016 when we started. And there was the clear goal that by 2019, the first vehicles are driving on European roads in a connected mode. It was 1 year later, it was 2020, but 2019 at the end, there was the announcement. And the key element of the C-ROADS platform is really linking all deployments, because at the end, it's not a platform deploying. It's a single road operator deploying. So this linking of the deployments, that everything fits together in a harmonized manner. And that everything fits together, one of the crucial elements are technical specifications. We are working on the technical specifications which are mirrored by the car industry, by the car-to-car communication consortium. So there are the technical specifications for the infrastructure, there are the technical specifications for the car industry. They fit together, and all stakeholders are committed to follow these technical specifications. They are, of course, public available. If you want to, just go to the C-ROADS website, and you can request them, and you will get always the latest release of them. We are doing cross-tests really to verify and to show this interoperability. And we have a use case-based approach. We are looking on use cases, and we are using technologies that are existing, that are proven. And that's, for the moment, that's ITS-G5 for the short range. And of course, we are looking on, and we are using this operational cellular networks for long-range communication. I have here also the structure of C-ROADS. We have several working groups and technical groups where the experts of the deployments are working together on all these specifications. And the specifications at the end are brought to the steering committee, where we have all the member states, the authorities that are accepting, committed to these specifications, and these specifications are forming then again the basis for the deployments. In this way, we have a kind of cycle of improving, hopefully, our infrastructure. I'm very short, I'm at the end. We see a huge potential in CITS. What we today have, it's information services. Nick Wittmann with Lex to Vehicle just said, okay, the future might be legal binding services. Yes, that's the future. And that's also something what we are looking towards, of course. We are also looking towards CITS services supporting automated driving function, if it's cooperative perception, if it's other things. We are working on these elements. So in future, we see that CITS, it's also a change in the ecosystem. It's maybe not so much traffic management anymore, but really supporting single travelers. Travelers are perceiving their message, their personalized or perceived personalized message. We're seeing CITS as a part and as a basis for supporting CCAM messages. And we see a huge potential when we are looking also to the environmental challenges, looking, for example, to Uber's urban vehicle access regulations, really to be very flexible in managing traffic and regulating it. With this, I'm at the end and would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Martin. And the end of one presentation is the beginning of another one. Yeah. And with that, I'd like to invite my colleague Timo Hoffmann, who serves as the General Secretary of NAPCOR. And so, Timo, tell us what's behind NAPCOR.
All right. Yes, thanks a lot, Thorsten. My name is Timo Hoffmann. I work for the German Federal Highway Research Institute, a colleague of Thorsten's, and I'm the General Secretary of NAPCOR. NAPCOR is an acronym, as so many are, which stands for the National Access Point Coordination Organization for Europe. So coordination is in the name of the project, and it's yeah, what it's mostly about, I would say. Let me give you a very quick overview of what we do in NAPCOR. It's all about the national access points. And I'm not sure how many of you are not familiar with national access points. Just very quickly, they are, a digital infrastructure that have been set up in the national, in the member states of the European Union, and are made for making data accessible and facilitate data sharing. So it's that's their role. Also, there's national bodies. I won't go into too much detail, but it's all about the ITS directive and its delegated regulations. So we have some goals, and the first one, and arguably the most important, would be to facilitate an EU-wide coordination between the national access points. The NAPs are quite different in their setup in Europe, and this leads to all kinds of issues and challenges, and there's a huge need for having a place for discussion to coordinate ourselves, to look for similar answers to the issues that we commonly have. And we want to work on the harmonization of the NAPs to be short, and so the first level, or the first goal, was on a more organizational level. The second goal is indeed on a more technical level, because we do want to increase the interoperability of them by further establishing standards and recommendations for these data exchange formats and its content, the data access and interfaces and the availability and so on. So it's a huge task. As you know, the data domains covered by the ITS directive, especially including the multimodal travel information services delegated regulation, are indeed quite wide. So it's a huge task to really coordinate ourselves in this regard from a technical standpoint. Also, we believe that we are underutilizing the NAPs as a resource that has been set up in Europe already, and we want to change that. We want to make sure that we can reap the full benefits of these platforms to its fullest potential, helping to facilitate data exchange in Europe, and come up with, where possible, a joint European strategy, vision and voice in terms of data exchange of mobility-related data. Quickly, what is our coverage? This is not a map of the members of the European Union. It's a map of all partners that we have in NAPCOR. We are one of the very few projects, maybe the only, I don't know, that have indeed all European member states plus additional ones as partners, which is a huge benefit to really come up with pan-European recommendations and standards in this regard. The partners that are part of NAPCOR are either member states and the ministries of transport and or national road authorities and or most national road operators. That's the ones who are our partners, at least the ones that are also responsible for the setup of the national access points in their member states. We have some international organizations. And it's, as has been said, it's co-funded by the European Commission under CEF. I won't go into details of our governance structure. It's a platform structure with some horizontal activities, with some working groups working on our strategy, on the interoperability topic, on the data content and accessibility of the NAPs. The largest one on the right side is the data exchange standards working group, which has 4 sub-working groups, including the sub-working groups on DataX2 and TNITS. Those have been 2 separate projects funded by the European Commission, and now they are under the umbrella of Working Group 4 within NAPCOR. We have an advisory board where we do have stakeholders, mainly European associations of various domains that are related to mobility data in the widest sense, and a steering committee in which all the member states of Europe are represented. So that's our setup. To keep it brief, what's the status of our work? We have now already achieved our midterm stage. So the original runtime is until the end of 24. But we are already planning the next steps, because none of our partners, none of our advisory board members have indicated that they think the project should end anytime soon, because it's clear the national access points do not have an end of their runtime. It's a mandatory regulated function and task of the member states, and as long as the delegated regulations are mandating national access points, there is a need for coordination of those national access points. So we are looking into making this project run longer or finding other ways of governing this task. We have, of course, already achieved milestones. A lot of them are still ahead, but we are on a good path. We are expanding our influence. We are in discussions with several other countries, neighboring countries, and far outside of Europe, who are interested in how we, what we achieve in terms of data exchange, standard recommendations, and so on. So we are in discussions with those, and we are planning a lot of cooperation agreements with related projects. We're working on some key documents, one of them being like the data dictionary, where we define the data categories that have been defined in the delegated regulation, which is one of the issues that we have, that there's still a lot of room for interpretation, and I think we're close to, for at least some of the data categories, to define them and make it clear what's meant by them, how the data should be should look like, and how they should be provided to the national access point. Some other highlights. This is somehow messed up. Never mind. We have instituted some ambassador teams to work on specific topics where a lot of a lot of coordination is needed, and we wanted to proceed on a domain-specific basis, namely on parking, on cycling, on mobility as a service, and alternative fuels. So we have small ambassador teams who really coordinate all the things that are going on within NAPCOR and are the contact points for other outside stakeholders in these fields. So that works really well. One other highlight is that we have now agreed on a merger of TNITS and DATEX2. So those two standards that I mentioned in most of the delegated regulations on how data should be exchanged, they are, as you've seen, now already under the umbrella, currently as separate sub-working groups. And now we've managed to get an agreement from the governing bodies and the technical experts that the future is a common one. So we're happy about that. It's still a long way to go, but this, I think, is the biggest achievement so far, that we do have an agreement in that end. Another highlight I do want to mention is our cooperation with service providers, ITS service providers. We have asked a few stakeholders or a few organizations that are service providers, big ones, multinational European active ones, to create a group in order to have one seat in our advisory board, and this group has come together and is now quite actively discussing within themselves, but also with us. For example, it has led to a series of workshops on the RTTI delegated regulation and some use cases there. So we're discussing with them, with both the private side, the ITS service providers, and road authorities of various levels to cooperate and coordinate our work. So that was another highlight, and it is still is, so it's still ongoing. Lastly, I already mentioned that the stakeholder interaction on a European level via the advisory board is working quite well. We meet regularly. Another opportunity to get involved is going to be the NAPCOR Mobility Data Days. We have had them in Paris. The next ones are in Budapest on the 7th and 8th of November. So please do feel invited. That's it for now. As a summary, I would say with NAPCOR we take cooperation and coordination seriously, and this is what we try to do with all the member states on board. It is challenging, but I think it's super. It's a key initiative. Although I'm biased and subjective on this, but I hope you agree that it's worthwhile. At least that's what our partners tell us. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Timo. And well, okay. Are there questions to the presenters in this second block? Yes.
Maybe a question to Timo. What is the approach towards alignment of quality of the data and ensuring quality of data?
Thank you. Thanks for the question. So there's a specific task in. Why does it turn off again? So there's a specific task that works on quality frameworks on various domains specifically, I cannot tell you exactly the status of it, other than we're working on setting up some quality frameworks as guidelines for various topics. As I said before, the domains are quite wide, and so we cannot really do everything. But the first quality framework or initial drafts or initial versions are, as far as I know, already in the finalizing stages. I cannot say much more about it. I'm not sure if anyone from NAPCOR is here who's more involved in these topics. Maybe there is.
So, Risto, you mentioned that the operational design elements, the ODD elements, or the attributes, were being evaluated. Was that in order to identify condition and performance issues for any of the attributes that would be needed for automated driving? In other words, is it so that the vehicle could become, if you will, a monitor and then communicate when an ODD element, an attribute that was essential for operation, if it was falling below a certain level, would that data be communicated to owner-operators so that they would be made aware that there was a degradation issue or a performance issue?
Yeah, a very good point, because this is one of the proposals that we made, because we thought that that's quite crucial to the support to be provided by the infrastructure, is to know whether some ODD attribute is falling below the threshold. So, and if the road operator, for instance, can do something about it in order to quite easily take care of that the attribute would be within the ODD. It would be very useful. This is not something that has been agreed on, but that has been put on the table as one of the topics that should be discussed between the road operators and the vehicle industry.
potential safety benefits for things like lane support system technologies that are in vehicles now, starting in 2023.
Obviously.
In the Euro NCAP. And so this could be a situation where the vehicle helps the road owner to support the vehicle system.
Obviously.
Thank you.
So thank you. And with that, let's move on to the third element, which we had planned for this session, which is, a panel reflecting on the presentations and making their points, and from there going to the more open discussion. And I'd like to welcome as a panelist, Anne Zeter from SINTEF in Norway. I'd like to welcome Hamid Zagampur from Swedish Transport Administration. And I'd like to welcome Lano from B-Mobile in Belgium. So maybe you would like to say, two sentences, what you are doing in this overall CCAM arena. And from that on, I will ask some questions. And, okay. Maybe, Hanne, you will start.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for inviting me. Hanne Zeter, working as a senior researcher at SINTEF. I'm originally a political scientist, so I'm working a lot in technology project from a more societal side. I'm also the work package leader in the Modi demonstrator project for the evaluation part of the project.
Yes, that's me. Hamid Zagampur, Chief Strategist. Oh, by the way, thank you very much, Torsten. Last minute, so you invited me here. Anyways, never too late. Never too late. This is good. I work at the Swedish Transport Administration, and I'm dealing with future transport systems in many ways, where CCAM is one of the main topics that I'm very much involved in lately. Lately, I mean during the past 12 years, I believe. So time's just flying. And I was very much involved in many international as well as national projects, and they are very much similar types of projects that we have been hearing about here.
So good afternoon. Also, thank you for the invitation. My name is Bart Lano. I'm from B-Mobile here in Belgium. So B-Mobile is a smart mobility service provider. We are also one of the service providers of the advisory board in NEPCOR. And I was also involved in the organization of some of these workshops. So my role in B-Mobile, I'm an innovation director, so I'm responsible for new R&D projects and also the European projects, of course. In the past, I was also involved in some of the 5G corridor projects. One of them we are currently involved in as B-Mobile is 5G Blueprint. Some of the aspects that are now appearing in the CCAM projects were also already first studies made in the past in these 5G corridor projects as well.
Thank you. And by the way, we had some last-minute apologies, but you cannot plan for people falling ill or planes being stuck on the ground. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, in taking up the research questions and also the title of this session, I'd like to ask you, how can we progress towards CCAM-hosting and enabling infrastructures in a cross-sector collaboration for the benefit of connected, cooperative, and automated mobility? And maybe related with that, also, what is then the role of the public and the private sector with regards for equipping and upgrading the CCAM-hosting infrastructure. Do you have some reflection on this or on the general content of the presentations that you have seen? So.
Do you want me to start? You're actually pointing out this doesn't work. No, it works. Rules and responsibilities are so important issues to be discussed. And I'm afraid that many times that I'm so happy to see you actually as a service provider in this panel, because I see that there are missing some in these discussions that we are not really taking into account our service providers when we talk about future services. These are so important. We are rather talking about technological solutions. We want to do it ourselves, but other people can do it even better. And we should also find out the ecosystem where rules and responsibility are defined. And having said that, I'm also very happy to hear that nowadays, when people present their projects, actually, they have also societal benefits at the end. Somehow they're incorporated nowadays. Before it wasn't even so. It was so much of technical issues were discussed. Of course, now the questions are much more mature, then we can talk about societal benefits. But I would really like to see a little bit more about this, not ending like a sentence that societal benefits will come later. So what is in it for people who are doing, for whom are we doing all of this?
Yes, thank you. Well, I was thinking about your question, Torsten, and I think it's really about, for me, it's about understanding the core technologies that the collaboration between the vehicle and the infrastructure around it consists of. And then it's also to understand how the different technologies interact, which might be the most challenging part of it all, to understand the actual complexity. And to find a good division of labor between the vehicle and the infrastructure, and where do the boundaries go for where does the vehicle have responsibility and where does the infrastructure have the responsibility. And we need more research, more innovation, both on the technology side, which we have gotten some insights into today through the new projects presented, but we also need more knowledge about the societal side, which Hamid touched into in his reply to the question. And I was also very happy about hearing when the presenters presented now, I was really happy to hear that some of the keywords which was part of all the presentations were dialogue, coordination, stakeholder cooperation, public-private sector collaborations, understanding, learning, trusting each others, including living labs in the projects, investigating new business models. So it's not just about ensuring that the technology works, it's ensuring that the technology works within our social system, which I believe as a social scientist perhaps is the biggest challenge of them all. Because the transport sector is so embedded in all other sectors, and especially with the movement that we see now towards CCAM, automated vehicles, connected vehicles, the transport sector is moving into other sectors, such as the communication sector, positioning, technology, and those interactions we haven't seen to that extent previously in our society. You have had interactions between those sectors, but not at all to the extent that we're seeing now. And this is about how we organize our society. It's about our policy system. It's about how the budgets are funded in the different departments, which is extremely complex processes, which might have to be rearranged for CCAM to actually work. And the buzzword of today, I think, is perhaps collaboration. It's been mentioned many, many times. But I think it's a reason for that, because the conversations in the panel seems to kind of converge into that conclusion. We need to talk more across boundaries, across sectors, across different traditional disciplines. And I think that using research and innovation projects for the purpose of that will lower the barriers against deploying CCAM in our society. Yeah.
You,
Yes, so yeah, happy that we can collaborate as a service provider here as well. So indeed, a lot heard about cooperation. Today, we as Mobile also involved in, or were involved in one of the larger CITS projects already in Europe, in the Netherlands. There was talking traffic in the past. Today, we have here in Flanders Mobilidata, where Mobile is directly collaborating with the road operator, and where we are implementing more than 25 CITS use cases at this moment. So it's really ongoing here. Okay, the connectivity was mentioned as well. Today we are using here the cellular, the operational cellular 4G networks. Not ITSG5 yet today. Maybe that can come in the future. We see with cellular connectivity can already reach a lot. Of course, if it's time critical for safety and so on, the way toward 5G and maybe 6G in the future is also definitely a need for. Maybe some other aspects that I noted during the presentations, the digital speed limits, for example, or digital information. Is it legally binding? Was some of the questions I heard. There, yeah, there is always, it was also a discussion already in the NAPCOR advisory board as well. Yeah, you have your physical speed limits, typically that are the legally binding speed limits. If the digital information is different, yeah, and your CCAM system is using the digital speed limitations, how should we deal with that? That's really an issue that should be further tackled and handled. Also, you can have automatic speed recognition with cameras, but then if you have parallel roads and you are reading the wrong limits, then you also have an issue. So there is still definitely a work on that area. Another aspect was safety. I'm happy to hear that in the new research project there is also a focus on the vulnerable road users. That's also something that we from Mobile have a focus on, and we really want to have a solution there that we can indeed send alerts to vulnerable road users or to other drivers if there is a vulnerable road user in the neighborhood. These are all things which are very relevant, and if you go to real-life deployments of CCAM, that we definitely should take into account. And if you speak about safety, then yeah, for the network, then low latency and reliability is definitely there an important point to take. So these are the first points I wanted to raise.
thank you. And going on from there.
I can start. Difficult question, not that difficult if you are actually sorting out, again, depending on the rules and responsibilities again. And from authorities' point of view, commercial markets and also OEMs, and also it is not only digital infrastructure, but also we have electricity as a very important component in our system nowadays. All of these are getting integrated. And looking back, before all of this happening, it is actually very recent. Maybe I'm too old, but it is only 15 years back we started to go this journey. And traditionally, in Sweden at least, I know, and in many other countries, these different infrastructure are dealt with different sectors. We have an energy sector. We have telecom sector. We have also authorities that they can work together with all of these sectors, of course, but they have different rules. They have different responsibilities. As authority, we are not able, as it is today, to invest, operate, and maintain any kind of other infrastructure than road infrastructure, because this is what we have defined. We are not able, we are not even allowed to compete with commercial actors. We are not allowed to compete with energy sector or digital side, the telecom industry. This is not possible today. Maybe it will be changed in the future, but as it is today, they are not there. I think it is very good as it is today, because it also urges people to compete with the best solutions and all the time develop their technologies, no matter if it is digital infrastructure or if it is even electricity, and many versions of electrical vehicles coming, also all of those need support from infrastructure. When I'm thinking of infrastructure, of course, Risto was mentioning that there are minor investments needed to make sure that many of the features in the already existing cars can work, like lane marking. This is excellent example that with very little money you can accomplish. You can achieve very efficiently the safety goals. You can improve it. This is very important to recognize. So with that example, I would like to bring you to the question that we are going, all investments in our infrastructure, at least in Sweden, it has to overweight, the benefit should overweight the cost for the investment. That's very important to remember. That one is one example what you can achieve in terms of impacts, positive impact, when you are spending a quite limited amount of money. If we get those kind of examples, several more of those, then we are happy to help. But we have to see it. We cannot invest and then discuss about, what happened now? We have a lot of things that are nice to have. What are the benefits? That's the big question.
Thank you. Timo?
Not really. Just okay, I'll try anyways. So we're in NEPCOR. I want to focus in on the question on multimodality that you posed, because indeed that we see at the National Access Point that there's a lot of data missing for multimodal applications. Public transport is maybe not all too bad, but looking at the sharing services or cycling, walking, and so on, a lot of data is really not there, simply not there. And many reasons for that, but one reason being that we cannot even at this moment yet recommend a standard on a European level on, okay, this is how the data on pathways for cycles should look like, or this is how the availability of bike sharing opportunities should look like, and so on. And that is really an issue that, talking about the societal benefits, currently, especially in the rural areas, not a lot of mobility as a service services are out there, and one of the reasons is that the data is lacking, especially in a harmonized way throughout Europe, because if it were available in a more harmonized way in Europe, then there would be more providers being able to really make use of the data and offer services. And this is exactly where we try to work towards, to have these sort of recommendations to increase availability and facilitate accessibility. And I think that's a super important topic. Yeah.
Yeah, I continue from here. I think basically, whenever you talk about the infrastructure, infrastructure is there for services, for enabling something, and I think it's not just the road mobility; it's very much multi-mobility. We can, in addition to data, of course, I have many examples here, or the communication infrastructure, the positioning infrastructure can be used, and not only for mobility purposes, but for many other purposes. So so in that way, I think it is something that when you make those calculations, as Hamid said about benefit cost, you should try to calculate also those benefits with other things that are enabled by the infrastructure. So I think, and in TM4CAT we actually made a list of things, or the potential of the new architecture for providing this attribute, ODD attribute value information. It would in fact improve and enhance a lot of other services, and not just those which are connected to automated driving.
Yeah, and I think that one additional factor in the terms of the benefits of CCAM in multimodality is that when you have a long transport chain, it's very difficult to highlight what is the benefit of doing one thing in that transport chain. All policy documents are very optimistic about the benefits and of such technology, and it's often phrased like a win-win situation, that if you have this technology and you deploy it in the transport system, then everybody wins. But it's very difficult, for the time being at least, in terms of multimodality, following a piece of goods moving from, let's say, Turkey, Italy, through Central Europe up until Norway. It's very difficult to say if you change something, one place in that transport chain, what will actually the benefit be? And it's very, very difficult for the end users to access such information. Because if we want people to actually choose more environmental friendly transport chains, then they should be informed about what is the benefit for the environment. And today that is not easy information to access.
And if you improve something, well, you move around the bottleneck to the next point, and again. Yeah. Okay. So, Martin?
I would like to bring in just a very quick and a very short example on CITS. When we started 2016 with the deployment of the CITS infrastructure supporting individual cars, and then started with cities. Within the cities, public transport operators recognized, oh, nice technology. let's use it. And we see now the first cities across Europe deploying, using ITS-G5 for their priority services for public transport. We see blue light services in cities like the city of Brno using ITS-G5 for priority services at traffic lights. And they have a side effect. Oh, now my tram is not only connected to the traffic light, but it can also be recognized by the individual vehicles. So what we see, CITS, I called it already, cooperative ITS, even within the authorities between the different domains, public transport, individual transport, traffic management, they start to discuss together, how can we use CITS, CCAM? How can we really create a new ecosystem? For me, we are really on an edge, creating a new ecosystem for making, organizing, orchestrating, however we call it, mobility all across Europe.
If I can just add on that, so even today, without ITS-G5, we also can already reach a lot of the CITS use cases, and we also make connectivity to traffic lights. Okay, in legacy cars today, we are just using the smartphone, where we have then the connectivity, and we can reach the driver and so on. But in future, this can be brought to the dashboard and so on. But it's anyway a first step to make people and to make also other public transport and so on familiar with the technology. So in this way, we see this as a great step already. And then regarding multimodality, indeed, it's hard to have the data and so on. Today, we have very good experience with the city of Antwerp, but they are in charge to collect all the data. And we as B-Mobile can then build a multimodal road planner, also taking into account shared mobility and so on. But yeah, there is somebody that has to take action to collect and to be in charge for bringing all the data together. One point is still missing is in a common payment platform.
You touched that. It was very good, actually. We believe also that we should be technical neutral as authorities. What is working is working. Connectivity is the services are the most important, no matter which type of technology can provide it. And I'm happy that people are working together. And also regarding data, I fully agree with you that we are lacking of a lot of data. We have a lot of data. We don't have system for analyzing the data. And when we have the system, we don't have the data. That's very common in Europe. Either we have, it is seldom that we have both in one place. That's a problem. And when we have it, all of it, then we have the problem with quality. Isn't it strange? And we spent lots of money on that, lots of money. And still talking about data, that's good. How about starting to use data? Sometimes it doesn't work, but let us do it and make sure that we can use it and improve the quality. That's the hinder, that we cannot start using it just because something else is better later. And that costs us money. That's what. And the other thing is that you're completely right that we have to make the transportation more efficient. But before that, we have the climate. I mean, at least in Sweden, we believe that it is so important to reduce the traffic itself, especially when they go on fossil energy. That's the big problem for us. And if it is cheaper, more effective, and it's running on the fossil fuel, it is not a big, it is not a big achievement. We need to really make the transportation system more effective in a sense that is environmental friendly. That's two perspectives are very important to deal with when we talk about future transportation system. Very important. Another thing that I would like also to say regarding those projects in the beginning that we listened to is that I would really like to see if you have done any kind of, I'm sure that you have, but I would like to see a picture showing the risk management when it comes to scale up the solutions that you are actually suggesting later. What are the problems? I mean, there are so many projects going on when they are very similar to each other, but at the end, we are not capable of scaling up the solutions. What are the problems? A kind of risk management.
Thank you for that. Well, I think this was quite a lively discussion here in the forefront. Asking in the room, do you have any questions to the presenters or the panelists or some reflections? Yes, please.
If I could, the last two conferences I attended, I heard that in the United States, they are now estimating that the cost of deploying CV2X is somewhere between $6.5 and $7 billion. And so I would ask you, if the Commission were to put together a fund of €6 billion and said to the road agency owners and to the member states, you can utilize this to prepare for the future, but didn't specify CV2X, would it be more likely that you would expend those funds for electrification, in other words, expanding charging stations throughout Europe? Would it be, if you were to weigh the ROI, given the lack of market penetration in cellular technologies and vehicles, would it really make sense to invest that money now in CV2X versus other needs that the road agency owners have or other priorities within the nation states? Or the member states? That would be my question for those who live this every day. Do you really believe that the priority would be CV2X or some version of that, or would it be something else?
I just would like to start to answer based on the funding, how this is organized by the European Commission. There are currently open calls, if we are looking to CEF, which is open to all kind of domains. There is no budget earmarked for CITS or CCAM if you are going towards deployments. So it's a decision of the member states where to place the remaining money. And lucky me, or a lucky CCAM community, there is still a willingness of member states to invest in both sides, on electrification as well as on CITS. So that there is no earmarked budget just for CCAM placed from the European Commission side.
Maybe I could answer your question this way, that electrification and also automation, they are two separate platforms. These together are very important for developing future systems. So you cannot just take one and just forget about the other one, because the other one, which you in this context we call CCAM, it contributes a lot to many of the problems we have every day in our traffic situation. So it is not only going on a fossil-free energy, but also organizing the transportation system in better manner. We have a complex traffic system, lots of cars everywhere, and we need to organize this, and we need both. So we cannot only prioritize one. This is my answer would be to you.
I can also contribute from the research side that now there is a new branch of research coming up which focuses on so-called twin transitions, where you see both the digital transformation as well as the green transformation, and see them as accelerating processes, which you cannot kind of divide into two separate parts, as Hamid said, but you have to see them together, and they will accelerate each other. So I think the question is good, but it's not easy to kind of give an either-or answer, because probably we need them both. They are accelerating each other.
Thank you. Well, just a very quick summary. First of all, some big hands for all the presenters on panelists. Second, I think we have heard about some important elements on progressing towards CCAM hosting and enabling infrastructures. Yeah, and well, okay. If you have a good goal for the future, it is important to make the first step. Yeah, and well, the immediate first step is having a good cup of coffee. I thank you all. Okay, thank you for being here. Enjoy it.